Welcome to the Golf Report podcast. I'm joined by Farah O'Keefe, sophomore on the women's golf team at the University of Texas. Farah is currently the 13th ranked amateur. Had a very good fall season and, won this year's women's Western amateur. So, we're going to chat about those things and, it's about her golf career. So, Farah, how are you doing and how are things going?
Good. They're going good. I've had a pretty eventful week this week. It's just another week in off season,
Yeah,
working out and doing school. So
yeah.
all in all, pretty solid.
Yeah, you're in your off season. You have, 3 months off, November, December, and January, from college golf. Your team just recently played in Hawaii, and then your team will pick it up again, at Palos Verdes, at the beginning of February. So, just how are things going, and how's your break going so far?
It's good. It's been good. I started out the break with a solid 5 days off of no golf, and then
Okay.
we had a Ryder Cup deal, but where we kind of did an inter-team draft between the men's and women's teams and played
Oh yeah, I
against each
think we saw
other.
that. Yeah.
Which that was a lot of fun. I was on the losing
Yeah.
team, so that humbled me pretty fast.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, it's been good so far. I went ranching this last weekend with one of my friends and just kind of sat around and watched football and went out and hunted and just had some fun, and it was, I had a blast, and I'm just
Mhm.
loving the off season because there's no pressure, and it's you can take everything as fast or slow as you want. And so it's been good for my game. I think I've been able to kind of focus on little nitpicky things that maybe I haven't had the time to, especially during the very busy season.
Yeah. Well, it's even going to get more busier in the spring, which we'll talk about. But back to football. So you go to UT, Texas. I believe it's about last time I looked, they were about the third ranked team. So they're very good at football. Do you get to go to most of the football games? When you're not at the tournament?
Yeah, I do. I'm going to the one this weekend. We're playing
Okay.
Kentucky at home. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I've grown up in Texas, grown up in Austin, and I've
Mhm.
always been a football fan. My younger brother plays football, and so to get
Okay.
to go to these games and just watch, my fellow athletes compete and withhold that standard of excellence that we have at the University of Texas is very exciting for me, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, like my team's ASU. They have a big game. They're actually ranked, I think, 21 right now. We have a
I
big
saw.
game against BYU. We win our
Gotcha.
next two, maybe we could backdoor into the playoff, but
That's
who knows?
awesome. Exciting.
And
First
also
year in
like
the Big 12, right?
yeah,
That's crazy.
so we're doing pretty good. And then I also like Boston College because my sister went there.
Nice.
But your team lost to Georgia, and my grandmother's a big Georgia fan because she grew up in Georgia. So we always have to watch all the Georgia games. So oh, sorry for that. But at
Yeah,
least
I'm
I
sure.
like Georgia, but my teams are ASU and Boston College.
Gotcha.
But she's a big Georgia fan growing up in Georgia. Um, so yeah, just tell me, your last tournament was in Hawaii. Just tell me, what have you been up to since returning from Hawaii?
Just relaxing, and I had a club fitting in terms of golf wise. I got a club fitting with Titleist,
Yep.
and just kind of hammered out some minor details, some
Yeah.
minor, not really changes, just updates, I would say, to the bag.
Okay.
And so just very simple stuff and just grinding and getting better at the basics.
Yeah. I know you're just, college player, but do you, change your equipment much or tinker with equipment or not too much?
Yeah, I do. I like
Okay.
to change around my bag every once in a while and see if there's anything that could be made better. I haven't really changed equipment, and I always try things. I always put them in and out of the bag, but I never
Yep.
really go play a tournament with brand new equipment unless it can't get any worse, which I
Okay.
actually did over the summer. I changed drivers, and it led to my only victory of the summer, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think, I sometimes I swap things in and out, but like I haven't really changed irons in probably 3 or 4 years. I haven't changed my wedge model or the setup since I started college. And so, I really just, they're very small
Mhm.
adjustments. I wouldn't really call them changes.
Okay.
It's fine tuning. So yeah, it's small, but I do it from time to time.
Yeah. Two things about equipment. First off, I believe I've heard you say this in other interviews, but there was something wrong with your shaft.
Yeah.
Was that, is that correct?
Yeah, I played my pretty much my entire freshman season with this driver that I was really struggling to hit fairways with. So I ended up changing the shaft because after Augusta, my dad was caddying for me. He's been my coach since I started playing, and what he
Okay.
saw was I had this one direction miss pretty much every time I pulled driver. And so we kind of went back to the drawing board, and he was like, "Okay, well, we just need a really fast fix, something that is going to help straighten out your ball flight, not going to change too much." So
Okay.
I ended up going to a heavier, stiffer shaft just to straighten out the ball flight. And it worked kind of. It got me through postseason. And then as soon as summer started, it was like, okay, I'm immediately going to go look for a new driver and try to fix this. And I ended up, I think I ended up going back to my old shaft for the tournaments that I played in Ireland. And then when I got back home, I
Hmm.
saw Mark Brooks, who's a UT alumni, and he's
Okay.
won a major championship and all this kind of stuff. He's a really good golfer, and he teaches out at UT Golf Club. And I played a couple of days with him, and he just was like, "Well, here, try this ping driver." And I never hit a ping driver before in my life, right? And so I get up there and I play 18 holes with this ping driver, and immediately was like, "Okay, this is obviously way better than what I have. I'm just gonna put it in the bag because I have a tournament next week." And I ended up going out to the Western, and I had the ping driver first tournament with it in the bag, and I won. So it was, and I think that was honestly, if there was a club that I could pick out from the lineup of the 14 that won me the golf tournament, I would say easily it was my driver. So pretty cool moment. And when I got back home from the Western, I got fit for the new Titleist stuff since I am on Team Titleist. And we tried to pretty much replicate what was going on with the ping driver. And with the new GT heads, I'm getting upwards of 3 to 4 more miles an hour ball speed. So it's
Yeah.
been a great change, and my driver's been fantastic this entire fall.
Yeah. So two more things about your equipment, and you mentioned your miss. Do you have a typical miss? Do you hit a draw or fade typically? And then about your equipment, what's your favorite club? And do you have like a club in your bag that's been in there for a while that you would have, difficulty, swapping out?
Yeah, I and to answer your first question, my miss is mostly to the left, which I
Okay.
think is a really good thing. I try to hit
Yeah.
kind of a straight ball to a little bit of a draw during competition, but I do like hitting fades with my fairway woods just to take the left miss out of play.
Okay.
Um, but with everything, if it's an iron or down, I'm pretty much always aiming a little bit right because I know it's going to go left.
Okay.
And so I just kind of correct that way and plan that way, my course management, etc. And then my favorite club in the bag, I've had the same putter for, man, I don't even know, probably like 7 years now, 6 or 7 years. I've changed the grip on it and the length, and that's about it. It's been I call it my old trusty. It's kind of my go-to club.
Mhm.
And I don't think that I'll be taking it out of the bag anytime soon. It's done a lot of really good things. It's also had some tough streaks, but I think most of those streaks are mental and come down to whether or not I'm thinking the right stuff over the putt. But I'm pretty much set on not really changing my putter. It's been a staple in my game for a very long time.
Yeah. So let's get back to, your final fall season tournament. It was in Hawaii at the Nanea Invitational. I believe your team finished third. So
Mhm.
just tell me about, how would you assess this tournament? And then going to Hawaii, how was it going to Hawaii? Did your team get to do anything fun, like go to the beach or just, explore Hawaii, or were you there mostly just to play golf?
Yeah, it was my first time to Hawaii, and so
Mhm.
my eyes were very open. I was
Yeah.
excited to experience everything that I could, and as a team, we had the opportunity to kind of stay on this. I wouldn't really call it a resort, but it was sort of set up that way. It was a hotel situation where there were shops and you could go to the beach and there were restaurants on the water and all this kind of stuff. So we had a lot of opportunities to go hang out and swim in the ocean. And they actually had the Ironman World Championships going on while we were there. So we got to watch some of the cyclists roll by, and some of the swimmers were going out to warm up and all this kind of stuff. And it was just really cool. There was a lot of stuff going on. It was a very busy area of the island, I guess. So we just had a good time. It was like having a free vacation. It was really cool. a paid
Yeah.
for vacation. It doesn't get much better than that. But in terms of the golf, Nenea is probably one of the better golf courses that I've ever played in terms of like quality. Um, there
Mhm.
wasn't a divot on the place during our practice round. It was just pristine, and it was a lot of fun. And everybody there, the membership, they were just all very welcoming and very glad to have us. And I think that was really cool. Um, and then in terms of my performance, I walked away from that tournament very frustrated because I felt like I could have easily have won the thing, but I
Yeah.
only lost by one shot. I finished second by one shot, and I keep telling myself that I'm like, if that's your disappointment, if that's your disappointed finish, you're only two shots out of winning the thing. And so it's, how do you go back and look at the statistics and say, okay, this is the areas that I need to work on. How do I get sharper in these areas when it comes down to the heat of battle and in competition, and not really overthinking it and just allowing myself opportunities to work on that. All I can ask for is having a chance on during round three on hole 36. It's like, or hole 54, sorry.
Mm.
Um, how do I give myself that opportunity to win the golf tournament? And it just comes down to being patient and being excited and ready to go in that moment versus shying away from it and being, a little bit more on the anxious side. And so that's kind of what I've taken away from that tournament as an individual. And as a team, I think that our girls were also very disappointed. It was a tough event for them. I think there were a lot of great things. Cindy, she struggled in the last day, but she had it going there for a little while. She kind of,
Mhm.
lost some momentum going down the stretch, but she had it going. And there were a lot of positives there. There were a lot of things to build on. Same with Lauren. She's had a really, really great fall. I'd chalk her up as I mean, on all the statistic boards in our academy, she's leading pretty much in every single um, category. And so I think she's got a lot of great things coming her way. She just needs to stay patient and keep doing what she's doing because she's kicking butt. She's going to do great things next semester. I can feel it. But we've had a really great fall as a team. We've had our first kind of two victories in a very long time, and so it's exciting for us. And I think we're
Mhm.
just continuing to ride that wave and work hard every day.
Yeah. So you're on a 3 month break, from college golf, your team's next tournament will be in February. So are you planning to, play any tournaments, upcoming over the winter? I know the Patriot All-America you played in last year is a big one, a few of your teammates are on, online, registered for the tournament, like Tiffany, Angela, Elisa, Emma, yeah, Lauren Kim, just a few of your teammates are registered for that tournament. The Patriot All-America, I know it's a big one, but just tell me, are you planning to play in any tournaments, this winter, or are you going to take a break until February? And then just tell me about, over the winter, these months like, November, December, January. What are some of your favorite, winter tournaments you played in the past? And yeah.
Yeah. I'm not really looking to do anything this winter. I think
Okay.
that I've had pretty much 9 months of just
Yeah.
constant competition. And, as soon as we were done with the national championship last year, I turned around and pretty much got on a plane to go to Ireland. And so,
Yeah.
um, I've been giving myself my body's tired. I have a lot of work to do with my fitness and kind of keeping my physical health up. So I'm just giving myself the opportunity to take a load off and have a real off season this year. Um, I have a lot of things to work on and sharpen up, and I know from past experience that my the more that I practice and I fine tune things, my competition brain is actually more ready to go versus kind of overstimulating myself in competition and I would say getting desensitized to being in pressure.
Hmm.
And so working on it at home and playing against people still competitively, maybe for 10 push-ups or whatever it is, it's something that keeps my fire going and my love for the game going because it's hard when you're competing every week and you're missing class and you don't get to see your family. It's a it takes a toll. And so I think that giving myself the opportunity to have an off season where I can really indulge in all of the other aspects of my life is something that I'm taking pretty seriously this year, and I'm gonna
Mm.
give myself that opportunity. What
Yeah.
was the other question?
Oh,
Just
just
long-term
you know, just tell me about, taking a break, like what are you going to work on over this winter and just what will it be like, to have a 3 month break, from tournaments? Because, I've talked to some college golfers, that they say, like I was talking to one last week, he says, you got to keep, playing and keep competition. You can't just, take a 3 month break off. That was their opinion. And talked to some others who say, it's good to have a few weeks off. So just talk about, what are you going to work on over this winter and just what will it be like to take, a 3 month break off, from tournaments?
Yeah, I definitely think I'm gonna give kind of my mind a little bit of a break, give
Hmm.
myself some time to sort of reset, but also get ready to go come the spring. I've been really applying myself in the gym lately. I'm trying to kind of tighten up some areas of my physical health, like I said.
Okay.
Um, but I'm also I'm still practicing. I'm still going out to the golf course every day,
Okay.
hitting balls for hours and whatever it may be. But I'm just kind of giving myself a break from the stress of college golf for a minute. I've been playing a lot of pickleball recently, so
Hmm.
um, just kind of doing other things and getting involved in other things. I do Bible study on Mondays, and so it's just having the time to do other stuff is fantastic, and being able to stay well rounded is something that I think is also very important for my mental health and all of that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm doing. But I'm not, it's not like I'm just not playing golf. I'm still playing every day. So it's
Nice.
just I have more time to do other stuff now. And
Hmm.
it's a nice break.
Yeah.
It's just a
Yeah,
break.
it's great. And I know, when I was in school, this is a busy time, Thanksgiving next week, then, you have exams and then, the holidays and then,
Exactly.
before you know it, it'll be right, time to pick it up in Palos Verdes in February.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Time flies.
So you're taking a break, and I noticed with at least with your team schedule, it's going to be a busy spring season. If you make it all the way to the national championship, that'll be 8 tournaments in 3.5 months from February through middle of May when national championship is. So just what will it be like playing 8 tournaments in about 3.5 months? Do you like playing lots of tournaments, or how will you navigate playing about 7, 8 tournaments in the span of just over 3 months?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So I think one of the things I struggled with last year, since it was my pretty much my first full year of competing in college golf, and
Yeah.
really I would say my first full year of having a schedule that with that many events. I've never really played that many events before. Um, I kind of saw myself towards the end of the spring last year, not necessarily getting physically tired, but mentally I was so drained and I wasn't ready to run through the tape, as you would say.
Hmm.
And so I think that this 3 month break before we hit 3.5 months of just, a full on sprint.
Yeah.
I'm I'm really giving myself the opportunity to prepare and get ready to, mentally prepare to and physically prepare and be ready to go all the way through that spring sprint because it really goes fast. It's you start it and that's over. And it's like you really have to have a level of or an ability to kind of bring yourself back to the present and stay grounded and still have the motivation to go out and hit every shot the best that you can. And I think the people that are mentally strong enough to do that are going to see really good results through the end of the spring. And last year, I think I did as a freshman, I'd kind of give myself like maybe like a B minus. I kind of, I got through Big 12s, I got through regionals, and then I got to national championship, and I got through the first 2 rounds, and then I hit a wall. And it was just like mentally, I just wasn't prepared to run all the way through the tape, and it was frustrating. But I gave myself the opportunity to learn from that, and I think, you don't grow in great stride without failing a couple of times, and so, um,
Hmm.
like I said, I'm just giving myself opportunities, and this year I'm taking it on as a challenge, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm, running through the tape and I'm giving it my all, 110% until the final whistle blows. So, um, yeah, but it's going to be a very long spring. It's going to be
Yeah.
tough, especially with ANWA mixed in there. It's going to be a lot of events. It's going to be a lot of golf. So, um, I'm just going to have to take time to find other things to do and make sure that I'm um my world isn't revolving around golf and I'm not completely stressed out like it can get very easily.
Oh yeah, I didn't even consider Anwa. Your March is very busy. You have Darius Rucker, then Betsy Rolls your home tournament. Then you're playing at Colonial Country Club. So at least, two of them, one's home and one's Tech one's also in Texas, Colonial Country Club, but three tournaments in March and then you go to the Anwa, So that'll
Mhm.
be a lot of golf. But glad you could take a break now and then, get ready for a very busy spring. So
Exactly.
you mentioned last year's, championship. Um, I heard, it was talked about, your team was, had the ups and downs at the national championship last year, as you mentioned. You shot 66 in the second round. Then, probably had a, difficult third and fourth round. You shot 77 and 81. So just tell me about last year's national championship. How difficult slash, how disappointing was it, that you didn't play, how you would have hoped, in the final two rounds at last year's national championship.
Yeah, I think that like I said, I took it as a learning opportunity. I was
Mhm.
obviously very upset following the final round. I actually went we finished, we weren't gonna make match play and I went straight to the driving range. Because even though I played terrible, I'd actually kind of found something in the last three holes. And so I went
Okay.
straight to the driving range to work on it because I knew that even though that tournament was over, I still had, other things to do that summer. And so my job wasn't done yet. Um, and I think that, you know, it was a good learning opportunity because of the disappointment. It was tough for all of us. There were a lot of tears shed at the end of that event. And it was just brutal. And it was one of those things that where we had to look at each other and we had to say, okay, you know what? We still have, yeah, we were a super young team, so we still have 2 more years at this. We have still got two more cracks. Um, and so we kind of had to hype each other up and say it's not over yet. That was our first try, and everything's gonna be okay. We're just gonna stay positive. We're gonna get through it. It's brutal. It's gonna sting, but remember the sting and remember the pain and use that as motivation to go work harder next year. Um, so that's kind of how I took the national championship. Obviously, I've kind of almost blocked it out of my memory. I think that I had a lot of things go just bad bounces and bad breaks, and I just had a lot of things not go my way during that tournament, especially the last 2 days. The second day, I honestly, it was really a strange event because I felt like obviously I shot 66 and I tied some program records, but it felt like I wasn't really locked in, and I think I got a couple of lucky lucky breaks and lucky instances coming down the stretch that kind of made that round from like a 70 into a 66. And that's just how it goes, and you have to be mentally prepared for that. Um as well as whatever you don't get to go your way. Sometimes if you get something that goes your way, it can be shocking. And so I took that again as a learning experience, and I'm gonna work towards being better prepared to, kind of stay on my toes and be ready for anything to come my way, good or bad.
Yeah, and it's difficult because after a long season, then you have the national championship, and it can be difficult. Like yourself, it didn't go the way you would have hoped, and even some other great players, like the 15th ranked amateur, Hannah Darling at South Carolina, she's won this year, and last year she had a difficult national championship. She shot 84 in the first round, and then I've heard she told her coach to sub her out, and so national championship, after a long season, and it can be difficult, for some players.
For
But
sure. And I also
yeah,
think that was our first look at La Costa
yeah,
for everybody in college golf. And it was, obviously I'd heard Coach Fields talk about it and I'd gone into his office a couple of times and we've
yeah,
chatted about it since, and I've asked him a lot about what he thinks. And it's funny, people don't really talk about how men's coaches or even both sets of coaches can be involved in back and forth conversations. We're very close with our guys team, and
yeah,
um, I talk with the coaches a lot, and our guys talk to our coaches, um, and I've kind of talked to him a couple times about La Costa, and I've asked him, what it's an interesting golf course. What do you think of it, coach? And he's kind of like, I really love it because it'll challenge everybody, no matter whether you're ranked, you know, 8,000 in the world or you're ranked
Mhm.
first in the world. It's going to challenge you to make really great shots and hit
Yeah.
really great shots. And I think that's what it's all about. It's kind of changed my opinion about lacrosse because walking away from the national championship last year, I was like, oh, I don't like this golf course. They kind of beat up on me, all this kind of stuff. And I've had the opportunity to kind of say, okay, you know what? Well, of course it's going to be difficult. It's a national championship golf course. It's, trying to make it like the US Open or the Masters where your great shots will have a great reward, but if you don't play smart and if you don't play consistent and have really great ball striking ability, you're gonna struggle out there. If your short game's not perfect, you're gonna struggle. So I think that that's something that I've kind of come away with from last year is, yeah, it's supposed to be hard. It's a
Yeah.
national championship.
Hmm. So let's talk more about your fall season. We talked about, your final tournament at Hawaii, but, I just want to give you the floor, how would you assess your fall season, other than, your first tournament at Folds of Honors? You had a very good fall season. So just, how would you assess your fall season?
Yeah, I think that I did a lot of really good
Mhm.
things. We were talking earlier about equipment changes, and at that first
Yep.
event, I threw a completely different set of irons in the bag just to kind of mess
Mhm.
around with it and see what would happen. Because I was like, you know what, you only get to play college golf once. I might as well see if these work,
Yep.
while it doesn't cost me anything. And it failed, and so I went straight back to my old gamers, and I saw immediate improvement. I finished third at Vanderbilt,
Yep.
and that was a really good event. I played very solid golf. But looking back at that event, I think my putter cost me a couple of shots that maybe I could have been in contention to win the thing. And so, I was in contention, but I would say even more so. I would have been even more so in contention, if my putter had, cooperated in a couple of areas. And then we played that match play event, and I actually played pretty good for that match play event. I got beat by Mayha, sorry, from Stanford. She's a freshman, and boy, can she play golf. She's got really good skills in every area, and I think that
Mhm.
she's gonna, with some experience under her belt, she's gonna flourish very nicely. She's a really nice girl, and she's got a big future ahead of her as well. And then we played Stanford, and I played Stanford last year. And so I had some experience with the course already kind of under my belt. And I would say the first two rounds were actually kind of uneventful. Not a lot happened. Um, I think I went one under and then even. And then the final round, I guess all the pin locations were in the right spot because I had made just about everything that I looked at, and it was just a really fun round of golf. I shot 7 under 64. And so it was just one of those rounds where everything kind of went your way, and um even when you had a bad break, like, I had on 16 is a par 5 that kind of goes up the hill, and I got a bad break on my drive, and I ended up saving par after missing the green on a par 5. Um Missing it in regulation, not even in two. And so that was a big momentum, kind of carried my momentum into 17 where I made birdie, and then 18 I made a really good par save. Um, and so I think it was just one of those days where everything kind of went the right way, and it was a lot of fun. And then Nanea was just I had a blast. It was super fun to go to Hawaii for the first time, and um but I still think, looking back in my fall, there were a lot of opportunities for me to have better results and have really good outcomes and maybe even get a couple of wins. Um, but it just comes down to, again, like I've been saying, my patience levels and what I'm willing to do in competition and how I'm willing to run through that tape. And I think that that's something that I'm working on for the spring, and hopefully it's gonna have some better results. But if it doesn't, it's okay. And I know that I'm working on all the right stuff, and I just have to be patient, and eventually my time will come.
Yeah, you summed up your fall season very well. I want to touch on a few things. You didn't start the way you probably would have liked or would have hoped at the Fault of Honor in Michigan. So just tell me how difficult it was, not starting your season off the way you would have hoped at the Fault of Honor, and then just tell me how did you, rebound after? difficult performance at Folds of Honors to, get third at the Mason Rudolph, Vanderbilt's tournament.
Yeah, like I said, I had some equipment stuff going on and I changed irons and then I went back to my gamers and just kind of made some adjustments from there and
Mhm.
kind of found out, okay, like this set of irons that I tried doesn't work at all. Like there's and then I got refit by Titleist and all came to the conclusion that I should never play those irons ever again.
Okay.
So it was kind of an interesting process, but at least we came to that conclusion and we have an answer for that problem. Um, but I think that Folds of Honor was kind of it was a weird event because it was our first event with our new coaches. It was the first time that we had kind of played in a field like that.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that that was, obviously Lauren played fantastic and she had a great event. And
Mhm.
all of our other girls, I would say, kind of struggled. Um, Lauren, she has a really good record of just being really consistent and, not giving up big numbers and all this kind of stuff. So she's always going to be solid. But it was just a difficult event for the rest of us. I struggled, and most of the time, I think I've only had two scores in college golf not count. So when yeah, I know that my team was relying on me, and so it was disappointing. I definitely walked away from that event upset and wanting to just had this burning fire to get better and do better. And I talked to our coaches about that, and it was a really cool moment between me and Coach Laura because obviously it was our first event and everything. We were still kind of hammering out the details of what we were gonna do. And her old team, Arizona, they won the event, and so it was this whole like weird mess. And I went and talked to her and I said, I didn't play how I wanted to, but I think it's because of the irons. So we took a deep dive and we looked into it, and sure enough, it was the irons. So I just put my gamers back in the bag and I went and played. And the next event, I went and played fantastic. And you know, I was gaining strokes with my approach to the green versus losing strokes. And so that was a really big flip and a very big difference and led to, some good scores.
Yeah, it's really great, that you can identify where you're struggling in your game. Like you can identify that's your irons that are, holding you back. A lot of times, when players are struggling, they feel lost and they don't know, what the fix is. But that's great that you
Yeah.
know the
And I
fix.
think our
Yeah.
coaches are a big part of
Mhm.
that. They help
Yeah.
us a lot. They've been doing a great job this year so far.
Yeah. So then after, going to Fulton Honors and your team play at Mason Rudolph, Vanderbilt's tournament, your team, won by 6. You finished third individually. So I talked to Laura, after your team got the, victory by 6. She said, just like you did, that you should have won, that your putting, held you back. Would you give the same assessment that your, putting held you back and that, you should have won that tournament? And then just what was it like, for your team to win by 6 and, shoot the third lowest score in, program history?
Yeah, I think that, assessing my own individual performance, I had four birdie opportunities coming down the stretch that I kind of squandered. I didn't really take advantage of. And it all came down to my putting. They were all inside 10 feet or 15 feet. And it was like, those were putts that if I hadn't overthought them or haven't wasn't overthinking, I probably would have made a couple of them. And I think that kind of comes back to discipline and staying, in my routine and all of that good stuff. Um, it's easy to get out of your routine when you're in the heat of battle. And so I think that that's something that I'm working on. Again, it all comes back to the mental stuff. Just getting better at being patient, staying in my routine, all that kind of stuff. So, um, yeah, it was a frustrating tournament. It was a frustrating finish, but I played really solid golf up until that point, up until like the 48th hole. And so I really can't complain all that much about anything else in the event other than maybe the last couple of holes and a couple of other opportunities that maybe I hadn't taken advantage of. But, that's when you hear guys on the PGA Tour talk about the difference between finishing second and first or third and first or top five and winning the event, it always comes back to your putting. And so I think that, and that's what they talked about a lot with Scotty, like Brandel Chambly and all those guys. They were like, 2 years ago, they're like, oh, he's never gonna win. He's never gonna stay consistent if he can't figure out his putting and get better because he was finishing inside top five all the time, but he would never, he's having a difficult time closing out events. and he had something click with his putting, and all of a sudden he's like nobody can beat him, you know. And so I think that that's kind of something that I'm facing right now is I'm not necessarily waiting for something to click, but I'm working on, finding a solution that is going to help my putting and help my consistency in that area. In terms of the team performance at Vanderbilt, it was a super cool experience because we had tied for first, I think, several times as a team. Actually, that I think that group outside of conference, that group had won conference, but um, kind of outside of conference, it was, we hadn't really had a full victory. And so to be able to get a victory there by six, was super cool for all of us. And we really enjoyed it. We just had a whole bunch of fun. And I think it was probably one of those moments that's super fulfilling and makes everybody really happy and feel like, okay, we did everything that we were supposed to. We did everything right. We checked all the boxes. There's no reason to go home and do anything different. We just need to keep doing what we're doing and see what happens. And we went into the next event and we won that one too. And so it was just like, we kept working and we're gonna keep working at the stuff that works and get better at the stuff that we're really good at and just see where that takes us. And hopefully that results in a couple of more victories down the stretch. But the future is unwritten. We just have to go out there and work hard enough to put pen to paper.
Yeah. So the last thing I wanted to touch on about your fall season, at Stanford's tournament, you shot a 7 under, 64 in the final round. So just tell me about, that round and shooting 7 under in the final round at Stanford.
Yeah, like I said, I had a lot of things go my way during that round. I think the whole locations just happened to be in all the right spots. My momentum kind of flipped. I think I had 7 pars in the first or 6 pars in the first 6 holes of this final round. And it was like, it was just like every other day on that golf course where up until that point, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna keep making pars, make a couple of birdies, and that's gonna be the round. And then I hit the green in two on seven and I made the eagle. So I was like, okay,
Mhm.
we're getting some momentum here. And then eight, I made par. And then nine, I actually hit a it wasn't a terrible approach shot. It just happened to get hung up in like the last few blades of grass in the rough and I was short-sighted. Um, and I'm up there, I'm like 15 yards from the hole and I'm looking at it and okay, I'm just gonna hopefully this just gets close. And I ended up chipping it in. And then I go to the very next hole and it's like birdie opportunity after birdie opportunity. And I'm just staying patient and giving it my all. And then I had a stretch where I think I made 3 birdies in a row. And it was just like, it just happened to be one of those days where everything kind of flowed and nothing was
Mhm.
forced. Um, and then I had some rough patches going down the stretch, I think, because I got a little nervous.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, it was just a really good round of golf, just really solid, very patient. The putter was cooperating, it saved me a couple of times, and that's golf. That's how you win events and you have good results. It all comes back to your putter and your patience level and how you stay in your routine and all of that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, you have won before in college. You won, well, tied for first, with a few other players at the Darius Rucker last season. That was a pretty crazy tournament. You finished off your tournament by making, about a 50-foot plus birdie putt, on the 18th, and you had a pretty, sweet, high five and hug, I believe, that was with Maddie Weiler.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, I've,
Maddie.
yeah, I've interviewed her when she was a coach at Texas.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, just tell me about, that tournament, how crazy that tournament was. Just tell me about, making that birdie putt on the last, and, did you know, where you stood, given that there were so many people, close to the top? Did you know where you stood, at the tournament during the round or after?
Yeah, yeah, that was a good event. So we have a Pete Dye course here in Austin,
Okay.
Austin Country Club, and they've held,
Mhm.
a PGA Tour event out there, the Dell Match Play.
Yeah, match play.
And I've kind of grown up playing it maybe twice a year, stuff like that. And so going out to South Carolina and Hilton Head, that's a Pete Dye golf course. And
Hmm.
so the optics are very similar to Austin Country Club. And so I kind of had an idea of maybe what the winning score was going to be. My guess was actually six under, and it ended up being five was the tie for first number.
Okay.
Um, and so I was kind of, the whole week I was being very patient. I was letting my putter do its thing, and I had a couple of rough patches, a lot of three putts. But I still made, happened to make enough putts to put myself up around the leaderboard going into the final round. And it's funny because I actually missed like a 4 or 5 footer on 17 before I made that long one for birdie. And our head coach Murph he just walked, he was like, I think he was more nervous than I was because he kind of came over to Maddie and he was like, hey, like, just tell her good speed, good speed. And so, and I overheard it, of course. And I was like, okay, good speed. So I hit it good speed and it just didn't go in the hole. And Maddie and I were both like, okay, well, at least it was a good putt. And we go to 18 and I kind of overcorrected to make sure I just got the ball in play and I was in the rough and I had 7 iron into that back pin location and I was kind of feeling like, okay, I have to be kind of close, like to the lead because our coaches are paying attention to me. There's kind of a following building. There's got to be something going on. So I kind of looked over at Maddie and I was like, before I hit this, can you tell me where we're at? Please, like, I just need to know so that I don't mess up. And she was like, or that I don't make a stupid decision and whatever. And she told me, she was like, yeah, you're two back, just get it on the green, just literally anywhere on the putting surface and maybe don't go make a
Mhm.
putt. And so I kind of chunked the 7 iron out and it went up onto the green, it got onto the top level. And I'd hit that putt a few times in the practice round. And as we're walking up, Maddie's doing her usual thing, just kind of joking at me, just we're kind of chipping back and forth. Just laughing and saying very light and just having a good time. And we get up there and she's just, I'm like, I kind of told her like, I know I need to make this putt. Like, I'm feeling kind of nervous. And she's like, okay, well, and I think you can actually see it on the replay. I laugh about it and I still get excited about it because she kind of wrote it into existence if that makes any sense. Because she goes, she literally told me, she's like, you just want to let it die into the hole, just dying speed, just let it go over the ridge and just die into the hole. And I hit the putt and I kind of, it was like one of those like blackout moments where you hit it and you haven't really thought about anything. And all of a sudden it comes off and you're like, wow, that looks really good. And then it goes over the hill and you're like, wow, that looks really good. And then it's tracking, and it falls in the bottom of the cup. And it's like, oh my gosh, like you
Mhm.
just made this awesome putt in front of all these people. It's on TV, like,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Just a really cool moment. One of those moments that you live for, you know what I mean? That's why I play golf. And yeah, I mean, it was just a really cool moment. It was a really good week and I had a lot of fun. And we stayed with this family. They have us in houses for that event. So we stayed with the Cars and they, were nice enough to welcome us into their home. And we just had a really great time that week. It was just a lot of fun and um it was just a fun event. It was just really cool. It's cool how they have it set up and you get a private concert with Darius and all this kind of stuff. And I'm a big country music fan, so I just had a blast that week and I think there was a lot of opportunity for me to just not necessarily be dwelling on golf and just have fun and enjoy the
Yeah.
process. So it was a lot of fun. It was a good week.
Yeah. That's great. So let's now talk about the women's Western Amateur. You won this year. You earned medalist honors. So tell me about, earning medalist honors. And I've heard you talk about breaking the medalist curse. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's funny because I think that I've only played Chicago golf twice, maybe three times.
Okay.
And every time that I go up north, it's all bent grass. It's so much greener than it is here in Texas. And visually it's just fun. It's just fun to look at the golf courses. You know what I mean? It's just like you can't not be happy to be out there. It's just you're always having a blast and just I just love it. It's just so much fun.
Mhm.
Um and we got to that event and I put the ping driver in play. I wasn't really like super keen. I was just like, "Okay, I'm just gonna play and see how it goes. I'm just gonna do my thing. I'm just gonna play. I'm just gonna see how it goes." And I get into the first round, and my mindset is in those match play events is always just, okay, your first two rounds are like two additional practice rounds. All you have to do is just make it through. Like you don't have to do anything special. Excuse me. And you just have to make it through the first two rounds. Even if you're ranked, if even if you're the 36th seed and you make it through, it doesn't matter. You're going to match play anyways.
Yeah.
And so it's just, the first two rounds are just they're just an opportunity to learn the golf course better. And I got paired with Annabelle Pancake, and I'm forgetting who else was in that group. It was somebody else that I think I know pretty well, but I'm forgetting at the moment. But I've known Annabelle since I was like 14. Like I played my first Texas Women's Open with her, and we were in the final pairing together. Um, and I know her dad and all this kind of stuff. So they were out there, and we were just kind of having a fun time. We were just going back and forth, and um, we were like battling it out in the first round. We were both finished at 5 under, and we were co-leaders, and it was just a fun couple of rounds to get in there with a couple of rounds in the 60s. And so I just enjoyed playing those first two rounds. And then we got into match play, and I won the medalist honors, and it was this big deal, and everybody, it was very, we had like a dinner and all this kind of stuff, and it was very swanky, and
Mhm.
um I was just enjoying it. I was just having a lot of fun. I was
Yeah.
like, I had a smile on my face the whole
Mhm.
time. I knew a lot of the people in the field, so it was like I was playing a junior golf event again. It was just like, oh, look, I'm just going out to play some golf with my buddies. And we get into match play, and first round I had my former teammate Bentley Cotton caddy for me before she had to leave and jump on a plane to come home. Um, and she just kind of, sorry, there's somebody knocking at our door. I think they're here to do maintenance. Um, anyway, she just kind of, told me she told me I'm just here to carry the bag. You just tell me what to do. I'm just here to carry the bag. And so I ended up winning that first match. So I played against Selena, my teammate. And it was the biggest victory I'd had in match play ever. And so it was, kind of got my momentum going, and it kept me in it. I kind of rode that wave all the way to the end, and I had another big win over another teammate. I ended up playing Cindy in the semifinals, I believe. And that was another chance where I just kind of got my confidence flowing. Um, and it was literally, I was just having so much fun. Like I was just enjoying
Mhm.
the day, and I was enjoying the competition, and I was embracing the golf, and everything in the bag it was firing on all cylinders. I don't think I made that many bogeys during the entirety of the tournament. But it was also, I forget about this all the time, but it was right after the Palmer Cup that we played in Ireland. It was collegiate players, USA versus Team International. And I played with Mary Kelly Mulcahy in alternate shot, and she plays for I can't even remember the name of the university right now, forgive me, but she's a D2 golfer out of Ohio. And
Yeah. University of Findlay.
yes, Finley, correct, yeah. And she's just
Mhm.
an absolute like just baller. Like all areas of her game are just on, perfect to a T. It's unbelievable to watch her play. And we were playing a pretty big match against Louise Runquist and Caitlin McNabb. And I probably just butchered their names, but it's okay. I know them anyways. Um, but we were playing a big match against them, and we were down really fast. And I kind of was like, man, I'm kind of nervous. I'd already just lost my first match. And I
Mhm.
turned to her, and she's like, I'm not nervous. I'm like, really? She's like, no, they're comfortable. They're not going to expect us to start making birdies. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're so right. And we ended up flipping the match and winning on 17. And it completely changed my mindset about match play. And even though I had a lot of experience beforehand, I never felt 100% comfortable in match play situations. And at the Western, after getting to match play, I was like, okay, anytime that I'm down, anytime that I'm facing some sort of adversity, I'm just going to think to myself, they're not going to expect you to start making birdies. They're comfortable right now, but make them uncomfortable. It was kind of the flip in the thought process. And um, truly, it changed how I think about match play, and I think it was one of those contributing factors to getting the dub there and at the Western. So it was a lot of
Yeah.
fun. It was a good week.
Yeah, and just what was it like when you won on, the 18th hole in that final match?
Yeah, it was just
Hmm.
it was emotional because I had a lot of my family there. My cousins live in South Bend and they drove early that morning to come watch at least some of the match. My younger cousin is getting into golf, and so his mom, made the effort to get both him and his older sister there to watch. And then my aunt was there. She's kind of been pretty involved in my golf career since I was in high school. Um, and my mom was there, and so it was just like, it was a good group of people that were just around me and my teammates, and like it was just really cool, I think, to
Hmm.
go all the way through from the first hole of stroke play all the way through to literally the last hole of match play. And so it was just fun, and it was one of those moments where, it's been a while since I had won, and it was like, oh my gosh, like you didn't make any mistakes during this tournament. You did everything right. Like
Hmm.
just, gave myself a pat on the back, and like I said, I just immediately told myself, this is what it feels like. Remember this feeling and work hard to have it back, to get back here and to keep doing this because it's truly something that it's that's why you play. It's
Yeah,
exactly why you play. You play to win. And
hmm,
so to actually be able to experience that was very cool.
yeah. So you've gotten to play, some pretty cool places, in the past few years throughout your golf career. You played at, the 2023 U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. You played the Anwar, Augusta National. You've, played the Canadian Women's Open, in Canada. You played, in England. So, and now, Hawaii. So what's it like, throughout your golf career in these past few years, playing, at, these pretty cool, special places.
Yeah, starting with the US Open, prior to that I really hadn't played that many events outside of Texas.
Okay.
I've played US Girls Junior a couple times, but it was like, I never really went super deep into match play, or it was just so to be able to qualify for the US Open, my first major,
Hmm.
it was one of those things that's like you don't even see it coming. You know what I mean? It's like you qualify in one day, and then all of a sudden you have to start planning to go to a major championship. And
Hmm.
it's something that I never experienced before, so I had no idea what to expect. And it was just a really cool learning experience. It was disappointing. I did not play very good golf, but I got to be in
Yeah.
that atmosphere and be around the greatest golfers in the world and learn from them. And I got to play with Jin Young Ko twice, and I think at the time she was number one in the world. And so it was just like,
Hmm.
it's one of those things that's just you can't take it for granted. And I think about it all the time. I'm like, man, if I were to go back to that moment right now, there's so many things that I would do differently, but there's also so many things that I would have kept the same because even though I didn't play very well, I got to soak up every moment. And it was a whole lot of fun. And I think it taught me a lot, and it put me on the right track to get into college golf and to start out strong and all that kind of stuff. So that was really cool. That was a very good experience. And then Anwa, that's when it got announced in 2018 that they were actually going to start it. Um, I was super young. I was like 13 or 14 years old, and I but I'd already had this dream of wanting to play. Um, I already had this dream, this fire building in me that I wanted to play at Augusta. Like I was like, I'm gonna play at Augusta, one day. Like it's gonna happen. Like I just know it's gonna happen. And when they announced it, it was like this just rush of like emotion, like, oh my gosh, I finally have the opportunity to play at Augusta. And when I came into college, it was like, I sat down with coach, with Murph, and we kind of almost wrote out this plan of like, this is the kind of events that you're gonna need to play to have a chance even of getting into Augusta. And I ended up having this unbelievable fall season my freshman year. Like you couldn't have written it any better. And I got in. I was invited. And it was just one of those moments where I got to go and compete there that was emotional because I had my dad on the bag, and he's caddied for me since I started golf. He's worked with me since I started golf, and so it was a very emotional kind of full circle thing, and it was a lot of fun. I think last year I was kind of more there for the memories versus getting the win, and I think it kind of showed in my play, but I don't regret any of it. It's an experience that I'm gonna carry with me the rest of my life, and I've you know I'm I pretty sure that I'm gonna get in again this year and have that opportunity to go and compete versus just enjoy. But again, it's gonna come with a completely different level of joy if I get the results that I want. So it's, there's that trade-off. But I'm so excited and I just can't wait. It's seriously I think it's the coolest event that I've ever played in my life. And I think it will continue to be one of the top events that I've ever played, even into my professional career. Despite playing in the first US Open at Pebble Beach for the women, and it's just a really cool experience. I just have so many things that I'm proud and lucky to say that I've been a part of.
Yeah. So let's talk about your teammates, Farah. Tell me about your relationship with your teammates. Like, are you close with your teammates? And then I noticed you played in the 2023 Canadian Women's Open, or amateur, excuse me. And I believe Lauren Kim won that tournament. So, she's now your teammate over yours. Did you know Lauren prior to that tournament, or did you meet her, first time at that tournament? And then you were also teammates last year with Bentley Khan, who's also from Austin. So what was it like, being teammates with Bentley, who's also from Austin?
Yeah, so Lauren, it's funny, we'd played in several events together, like in the
Hmm.
same field, but we never actually talked to each other,
Yeah.
or played in the same group. And so it was Canadian, I think, was the second time I'd seen her that summer because we were both at the US Open.
Okay.
Um, and so we kind of got, I guess, acquainted at the US Open, and then we kind of talked some more at US Girls Junior and hung out for a little while during, like rain delays and all that kind of stuff. And then Canadian was like, it was the first time I got to actually like go and root her on and just be
Hmm.
right there and be excited for her. And I would have never expected our friendship to turn into what it is. I think that it's hilarious. We talk about it all the time. It's like we're almost twins, but from different countries. And we never known each other until we were 18 years old. And it's like this really weird thing where our lives are like very parallel. Like our dads are our coaches. They both played rugby. We're both oldest siblings and like we have all of these similarities that are just crazy. And it's now we're roommates and like, we share everything together. We text each other, we work on homework together. It's like it's really turned into this friendship that I would have never seen coming.
Hmm.
Um and I just love her so much. She's just such a great person in my life, and I'm so glad that I get to be here while she does great things, and I'm so grateful for her being supportive for when things go my way. And it's just really cool to see how, people talk about college, and how that builds long-lasting friendships. And I think that I've kind of met a friend that's going to be in my life for a very long time. We're probably going to, babysit each other's kids and go on tour together and all this kind of stuff. And it's a really cool thing to see that coming into my life. And yeah, I'm just so proud of her for everything that she's done. She's just a great person, a great human being. And she's actually dating one of my high school teammates. So it's like it's very kind of intertwined and all this kind of stuff. So it's a lot of fun. And then Bentley, I've known of Bentley since I was in middle school. So like she's kind of this local celebrity and maybe even national celebrity. She has got a big following. Um, and we kind of my freshman semester, um, I feel like she kind of took me under her wing and kind of brought me up a little bit as like, this is what you need to know about Texas. This is what we're gonna, this is what you need to do. This is the legacy. You're gonna turn into this leader on the team, et cetera, et cetera. And she kind of just welcomed me into it with open arms. And that's exactly how our entire family is. They're just so welcoming and loving. And, Jimbo and Jamie, they're just great people. And so is Austin. Um, and they're really just a whole family ordeal. It's like you get to know Bentley, you get to know everybody. So
Hmm.
it's a lot of fun. And it was a blessing to be able to play alongside her for a year, and learn from her and kind of see how things work because I think she has a really good understanding of college golf and kind of, as you would put it, the real world. And so it's just cool to be able to spend time with her and learn from her. And she challenges me in terms of match play. She's a really great match play competitor. And so, we still go play all the time and battle each other and push each other. And so she's just a really good influence on my game and who I'm, the person that I'm growing into becoming because I think she's a really great role model. So
Yeah.
it's just cool to have these people in my life for sure.
Yeah, it's great. Three more things I wanted to talk about, Farah. First, you have new coaches this year. You have Laura as your head coach. You have Braden Ash and Garrett Fay. So what has the transition been like to having a new coaching staff this season? What's it been like, having Laura as your head coach, given she's had success. She led Arizona to a national championship. So just what has the transition been like to having a new coaching staff this year?
Yeah, it's definitely different. It's a very different vibe. I think that
Mhm.
they still have all of the same tools in the toolbox that our previous coaching staff had.
Yeah.
Um, they're just different personalities. I think they bring a lot of excitement to the table. They bring a lot of love and open arms and encouragement. And I think all of our girls are really benefiting from that. But they're also just like outside of golf, they're just great people. You know what I mean? They have great families. They're interested in other things. They help us, in any way that we need. They're setting up all of these different stuff for us to do as a team, whether it's go to dinner or, I think they're planning a retreat to go maybe play some golf and do some other stuff. And so
Yeah.
they're just really interested in us as people. And I think that that goes a
Mhm.
really long way. In terms of the support level that we're getting now, it's a little bit different. They're
Yeah.
more active, I think, in our lives. But like out in golf, they're just super knowledgeable. Braden is seriously, he has some unbelievable golf knowledge, and
Okay.
he's got a great eye for the golf swing, all this kind of stuff. He just really knows what he's talking about, even though he's only like 27. So sometimes I'm like kind of sketched out and I'm like, are you sure you know what you're talking about? But then it's like I'm running it through my head. I'm like, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. Like I just need to trust him. And so and same thing with Laura. Like they're it's almost like they're mother and son. They have such a great bond and the way that they support the team in and outside of golf is really unbelievable and it's just been such a cool thing to experience and observe the changes that are happening in our in our program. So it's just a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun. It's really cool. And Garrett is brings a next level of funny to the table. He's
Yeah.
just a great guy. He's always energetic and he has something, he says something goofy and it kind of makes everybody chuckle and he's just positive and he kind of reinforces all of the values that our coaches, that our head and assistant coaches have going. So it's like, it's just a really good environment. I think we're all kind of building off of it, building off of each other. Um, and it's just, I love how they have no emotional tie to win or loss. It's if we win, it's like, yes, exciting, like let's go, come on, like this is amazing. We've done all these great things. Like you guys are awesome. There's always positive little nuggets here and there. And if we don't play the way that we wanted to, it's okay. We get to go back home and we get to work on it and we get to see all these things. It's as long as we have we play with a purpose and we have a good attitude and we play all the way through the tape, then our coaches are going to be proud of us. And I think that that's a really cool thing to see being implemented on our team. And I think it's really changing how some of our girls are approaching golf, especially myself. Like
Mhm.
I think I have a tendency to fall into pretty negative self-talk habits. And I think that Braden and Laura have kind of seen that and they're trying to help me be a little bit more positive in my self-talk. And I really appreciate them doing that. And I think it's starting to make some changes. So it's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just tell me about growing up in Austin and how you got started playing golf.
Yeah, so I've grown up in Austin. Um,
Mhm.
I've never moved. We literally lived in the same house from day one. And so this is very much just feels like the whole city is my playground. It's my backyard. I know everywhere. I know a lot of people, and it's homey. I love coming home from events and being home versus being at school.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's something that I've really appreciated a lot, especially the last couple of years. It's such a blessing. Um, and then how I got into golf. Um, it's an interesting story. So my mom has something called, I think it's called GM or GH or something like that. And it's basically it makes you have morning sickness all the way through her pregnancy. And so after she gave birth, she was kind of recovering from that for about a year. She was still sick. And so my dad would take me to the golf course with him because he was kind of getting more and more into golf. And I'd be sitting in the stroller, just kind of watching him hit balls on the range. He'd park me right behind him, and I just little baby goo goo gaga watching him hit balls. And then as soon as I could sit up, he would put me behind the hole while he was putting and have me, kind of roll his balls back, whether he made it or missed it. And so that's kind of how I got into golf. And then the first time I went out to the golf course, where he had a club for me, kind of gave me the club. And I was like, okay, I think I know what to do. And apparently he just told me that I put my hands on the grip and I walked up to the ball, first swing, and it flew like 20 yards. And he was like, okay, you're playing golf. Like, your future is written. It makes sense now. And so it was a really cool start to the game. And, I played a bunch of other sports in between getting to college golf. I played flag football, I played basketball, I played tennis. I did all of these different things. But in the end, I kind of decided on golf as being my career, my main sport. Um, Not just because it was the best sport that I had the physical capabilities for, but also it's just a sport that I fell in love with. It's so much more than just hitting a golf ball. It's there's mental stuff, there's strategy, there's ups and downs, there's all these different things that even though they're hard to be grateful for, it's what makes the game the game, and so it's just a lot of fun. But I still play other sports. I mean, I play pickleball. I've gotten into pickleball a lot, pretty heavily recently, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Finally, Farah, what has it been like, to attend UT and play for the Longhorns, given you grew up as a UT fan, and just what have been some of your favorite college golf memories so far?
Yeah, it's been playing for UT has been honestly I can say a dream come true. Um I during the recruiting process I seriously never thought that I was gonna have anything to do with UT. Like I was like, oh, they're never gonna want to recruit me. I'm not that good, blah blah blah. And then I got the call from Coach Kate, and it was like I remember I was sitting in my car during lunch at high school at my high school, and I think I had two other teammates in the car. They were kind of, I didn't have it on speaker, but they were trying to listen in on the conversation. And they invited me on a visit, and it was like the whole car just started like going crazy. And it was like I was just so excited, and it was seriously one of those moments where it was just like a dream come true, an opportunity that I'll never take for granted. It was just so cool. And and now, I have family members that have all gone to Texas and they're huge Texas fans and they still go to the games and all this kind of stuff. And so it's really cool just to have the connection and the just being the ability and the I don't even know what to call it, but just being able to play for the University of Texas and represent the Longhorns and wear the burnt orange is something that I feel so blessed to be able to do. And um I'm blessed to call Texas my home,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's been really fun. And I think my favorite memory um so far from Texas, gosh, there's so many good ones. I really don't know what to say.
The 50-foot putt at Darius Rucker, or would it be
That's
more
yeah, that's a pretty good memory.
winning at Vanderbilt? Would that be more special because that's a team,
Yeah,
victory, not an individual victory?
exactly. Those are all great. I think winning Big 12 was also very cool. That was
Okay.
a lot of fun.
Mhm.
That golf course is a really cool place. And then I don't know, we just have so many like little memories of kind of just little stuff
Do you
from
enjoy
tournaments
just
and
like,
coaches.
the drives or, the plane trip, traveling with your teammates? Is that more special than, any score on a golf course?
Oh yeah, for sure. Just
Yeah.
spending time with them
Hmm.
and having fun. I think, a great memory that I have is actually it was our first event in ever. We were in Minnesota and our men's football team, they were playing Alabama at home, I believe. Maybe it was at Alabama. I can't remember. I think it was at Alabama. And we had all packed into one hotel room. And it was like this teeny tiny TV, like barely bigger than a computer screen. And we're all just like glued to the screen watching. And I think Quinn ended up throwing this like really great pass to kind of, I think they scored a touchdown with like 8 minutes left or something like this. And it kind of turned the tables. And we were all just sitting in this one hotel room screaming at the TV and just so passionate and excited. And we won. It was like, it was just the coolest thing. It was my first experience being on a college golf team and traveling, and it was really cool to see how everybody was all excited to be together. And I think that that's one of my favorite memories. And then this year at Stanford, this was pretty funny. So we have a lot of international girls on our team, and Angela, who's actually she plays on the American flag, but she's Korean, I would say. She's pretty much from Korea. She still has an accent and all that kind of stuff. Um, Even though she was born over here. Um, she was like, Farah, I was just watching all of these football games. I had like 3 football games up on my computer and my TV. And I'm like, you watch football? Like, and she rooms by herself and she's like, yeah, of course I watch football. And I would have never guessed, I would have never written her as a person to go and watch football by herself on like a Saturday evening. And it was just really funny. I think that's something that speaks to our team. Our teammates are just such interesting people. And they all bring different personalities to the table. And it's just really cool to see how they all kind of mesh and collaborate and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's just been a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to the next 2.5 years.